get ready for the age of the Terminator. For those of you who love your heavily power armored foes, champions, get ready because 11th edition is bringing them. And if 10th edition, they were disappointing, I got some spice for you in today's video. We're going to learn how to field these guys and make them super awesome. Guys, I am Jonathan Arca, and I am a top 100 player, and I am a professional Warhammer 40k coach, and I am bringing this content to you to get you prepared for 11th edition so that you can play the game to the top level that you can, and so that you can have an absolute blast while you're freaking doing it, because we're playing this game to enjoy our lives. So, a lot of people out there are pretty dang disappointed that in the last edition of 40k, your Terminators kind of sucked, but no longer. I'm going to lay out the argument for why I think you guys should be starting to unpack your heavy-duty freaking stormtroopers out here, because these guys are about to be doing amazing things on the battlefield. If you like this content, please smash the like button, share it with your friends, and let's get into the reasons why Terminators will rule the battlefield. First things first, terrain or objectives. I'm going to tell you all the things, and I'm going to go deep dive into them on the next few slides for you guys, so you guys can understand these rules. Terrains are objectives. This is actually a really, really big deal. We're no longer standing on objectives out in the middle of nowhere. We're actually standing on the things that are giving us our cover. 2, the hidden rule is going to force your opponents to become significantly closer to you if they want to interact with your heavily powered nerds. 3, the new rules for consolidation mean when you consolidate, you just move on to the objective, and the objective is terrain. There's no center of it, so you just basically get to consolidate wherever the heck you want on the terrain. That's a very big deal. And then 4 is going to be the defensive profile for Terminators, which in 10th edition kind of was disappointing. But in the context of 11th edition, the defensive profile is actually going to be quite good. So I'm going to explain all these arguments in depth now so that you're going to get a really good insight into how this works. First things first, let's talk about how we actually win 40k. A lot of people are going to screw this up, so don't be deceived by all the new rules, okay? Victory point differential is how we win 40k. Creating a victory point differential in our favor. Like I said, I don't care if you win by 1 point. I don't care if you win by 93 points. If you win the game, you win the game. This is how we win Warhammer 40k. And with all the changes, hey, your objectives are now terrain. They're not like little circular disc. Your secondaries are different. Now we can score primaries based off how our army is designed. All these things are really, really different, but the reality is that 40k is still an objective-based game, and every single primary out there is going to have you holding objectives. Yes, in some of them you'll get bonus points for doing actions, and some of them you'll get some of your points by killing enemy units, but you're still going to have to hold objectives. You're still going to have to deny objectives, and infantry is king for that. One of the really cool things about your Terminator units is that they are actually led by characters that really, really buff this OC, and like your Ancients, for example, or your Captains who get you free CP to utilize stratagems, or even Chaplains who are getting them mortal wound defenses, and they can make them punch harder in combat, which is really, really where we want them to be. In addition to this, when we stack this with like the new heroic intervention, oh my goodness gracious, you can have these Terminators on the far end of an objective, where it's like your opponent can't shoot them because they're going to be too far away. I'll talk about that in just a freaking moment. And if your opponent is just trying to out-OC you by putting trash on the objective, you're just going to charge them at the end of their charge turn, and they're all going to be obliterated. This is going to be a really big problem for opponents who are not tech to deal with Terminators, and the problem with getting tech to deal with Terminators is it's going to be really hard. So let me show you how this works. Terrain is objectives, guys. In this little picture here that I've got detailed for you, if you see, there's like a bunch of blue circles and there's a bunch of pink circles. So what I did is I took these Terminators and I touched the objective with them. The pink circle will be 15-inch loan up due to the hidden rule. Everyone knows how the hidden rule works at this point, and if you don't, I'll just briefly go over it. So if you have infantry, swarms, or beasts that are within terrain that is dense, and soon to be revealed in digital updates, it'll also include light terrain, then what will happen is that you cannot be shot or targeted or selected as the target of ranged shooting attacks if you did not shoot this turn or shoot last turn. And Terminators a lot of times don't really want to bother shooting because most of your Terminators kind of suck at shooting. There are limited exceptions. T-Sun's Terminators, for example, that's a pretty big exception. But a lot of times your Terminators kind of suck at shooting, or your Assault Terminators, and you can't shoot anyway, so not really something to worry about. So if you look at this, this is a Rogue Adorn. This is one of the few things that's actually scary about Terminators and shooting. It's one of the reasons why Terminators are not very good in 10th edition, is because they're very, very vulnerable to a lots of types of shooting profiles. I've got some of them listed here. So we're talking things like Forge Fiends, Rogue Adorns, Riptides, Predator Destructors, Doomsday Arcs. These style units are actually why Terminators kind of suck in 10th edition. But there's something really common about all these units. One, it's like 36 to 48 in shooting. Two, it's going to be like AP2, AP3 with flat 3 damage shooting. These are the style, or DDAs are obviously flat 4 damage. Riptides can be flat 4 when they overcharge. Obviously, you understand that. But this is the style of shooting that's really, really scary about these units. But the problem is that this style of shooting really, really desperately wants to be shooting your Terminators from approximately 36 to 48 inches away. They do not want to be doing it from 12 to 15 inches away. This is the great equalizer in 11th edition. So this long-range shooting stuff, and before people start crying about, oh, shooting's dead, you're wrong. Shooting's not dead. If you see some of these maps, these firing lanes are bonkers, okay? So shooting is not dead. But for the specific type of shooting that is typically dealing with a Terminator body, they're now going to have to be doing it from 12 to 15 inches away in most scenarios, assuming that you don't lose hidden or they don't have ways to buff the detects to decrease or increase your detection range. Those types of things are going to shoot you from so close they become exceptionally vulnerable to your counterpunch, whereas in the previous edition they were not vulnerable to your counterpunch at all, because if they were within range of your counterpunch, then they would have been obliterated and there wouldn't have been a problem anyway. But in 11th edition, they have to dramatically expose themselves. So in 11th edition, here's the great equalizer, guys. Shooting units have to expose themselves just as much as melee units have to expose themselves. It's going to be basically equal footing on how much you have to expose yourself to be able to punish your opponent. And that is a huge boon to Terminators because they have to get shot from this range up. And the reason why these shooting units really need to be the ones that are dealing with these Terminators is because there are not many melee units in the game that are actually good at killing Terminators. Now, this might come as a surprise to people because people have just been conditioned to think Terminators kind of suck. But when you run mathematics on it, man, there are not many melee units that are just good at killing Terminator bodies. Like, here's a great example of you. I took an incredible melee unit, Sanguinary Guard, a unit of 6. This is a 260-point unit into a basic unit of normal Terminators. Space Marine Terminators, so they're going to run 170 points. 3 Wind Terminators, they're not Assault Terminators. Pardon me. These Sanguinary Guard, with a 6-man squad, kills 3 on the charge. Now, if I'm running Liberator Assault Group, which is the most deadly form of Sanguinary Guard, so they go to Strength 8, I can give them +1 to wound, I can give them lethal hits, I can give them addition to like +1 attack, so it's a significantly stronger Sanguinary Guard, and it costs us other resources. That unit can then kill 5 exactly. But we're talking a 260-point unit into a 170-point unit. 90 points more. This is a terrible trade if you're having to take one of the most deadly units of melee in the game and put it into these Terminators. Now, with limited exceptions, there are other exceptions to this rule, right? Like, you've got certain characters that are pretty good at killing Terminators. Huron, for example, can do it pretty well. You've got greater demons out there that are pretty good at killing Terminator bodies. But by and large, those are actually pretty dang rare for units that are good at killing Terminator bodies. This is a big freaking deal. By the way, Eldar rejoice because your Howling Banshees are actually one of the few units that are pretty decent at killing your Terminators. So, with that being said, most of the units that are good at killing Terminators just got way worse at killing Terminators because of where they have to do it from. All right, now let's talk a little bit more about the Terminators. I'm just going to kind of show you some of the context of like what the Terminators that are really good are looking like. So I'm going to break these down for you. So, in my opinion, some of the Terminators that I'm really excited about are going to be your Dark Angel Terminators, Deathwing Terminators, because if you guys know Deathwing rules, the Deathwing Terminator rules, which no one ever took in 10th edition, they ignore all ballistic skill and hit roll, and weapon skill and hit roll modifiers. That's actually significantly better in 11th edition than it was in 10th edition. Deathwing Knights, say no more. I mean, -1 damage, 4 wounds each. These guys are brutal to deal with. They actually already don't care about getting shot, and in 11th edition, they certainly don't care about getting shot. Space Marine Terminators, especially of the Blood Angels variety, these guys start hitting incredibly hard, and I mean, there's tons of different detachments of Space Marines where you can buff these guys really, really well. I'm thinking Hammer of Avernite right off the bat, where I can actually lead these guys. I can get them sustained hits and lethal hits and resurrect Terminators. It's amazing. Alaris Custodian Terminators are actually going to getting a huge boost in 11th edition because these guys can stay here. They actually have higher OC than your typical Terminators. Then, in addition to that, when it is time to not worry about hit anymore, their shooting has gotten a huge buff in the form of cover no longer gives people +1 to their armor save. Grey Knight Terminators are feeling really, really good. These guys have extremely high OC, OC 3, and they resurrect models. This means Grey Knight Terminators are actually very interesting to me right now. CSM Terminators are the most high damage dealing Terminators in the game outside of your Death Guard, who are led by a character. There's caveats. I understand that. EC Terminators. Everyone thinks EC Terminators are a freaking joke, but guys, EC Terminators, if I'm not mistaken, are 145 points for 5. If that points cost is the same in 11th edition, and I know context dependent, we need to see the points, we need to see if the rules are exactly the same on the unreleased. I do recognize all of this. That is a ludicrously cheap unit that's going to do incredibly powerful work for EC players if you are brave enough to try it. Now, I know there's going to be people in the chat who are like, oh, this guy clearly has never played EC. He knows EC Terminators suck. I'm not talking about the ability. I agree. The ability for EC Terminators suck. The profile is freaking incredible for that points cost. And then we talk about Death Guard Terminators. They've got T7 Terminators with 4 wounds and 3 wounds. They've got actually relatively cheap. If I'm not mistaken, your Blight Lord Terminators like 155, 160. It's very cheap for a Terminator body. Stack that with all the benefits of that what we've spoken about for Terminators. And then lastly, you got your T-Sense Terminators. Your T-Sense Terminators, just a -1 to wound flat. Very powerful. Now, I will say T-Sense Terminators are probably the least exciting type of Terminator, in my opinion, because of that fact that you don't get hidden if you shoot. And T-Sense Terminators want to be shooting. That doesn't mean they're not good. -1 to wound just on a T5 body with a 2-up arm save and a 4-up invulnerable save is very, very strong. And it will be a useful unit. So guys, these are the reasons why I really think Terminators are actually poised to be really good. Their defensive profile is really good into most melee units. Might not be very good into a lot of shooting, but now that shooting is going to have to take a huge risk if it wants to be close enough to actually kill your Terminators. In addition to that, these now that the terrain is your objectives, it's really freaking easy to just tow into the base of the terrain to make sure that you get your OC on said objective. Let me just show you the picture again here. Maybe see if I can maximize this to kind of demonstrate. See all these Terminators that are touching that terrain? Yeah, those guys, they're now getting their OC on that objective, which is terrain. That's a really, really big deal. The new heroic intervention means that if you want to just try to out-OC me by putting your trash on the objective, I can charge you at the end of your turn. And then my Terminators are gonna still rip through your freaking Imperial Guardsmen that are just trying to OC me. So guys, I think Terminators are a unit to watch. There's gonna be lots of changes. And of course, we need the context of rules and stuff as they come out for the new detachments and things. But keep these guys in your heads and get excited. Is this, and I really want to know from all of you in the chat below, what do you think? Is this the age of the Terminators? Let me know. Until next time, crump on. Bye-bye.